Welcome to the Promys Enterprise PSA software. Today we'll be doing a quick overview of the Promys project management functionality, timesheet expense and resource calendar. When you first log into Promys, what you see is your role-based dashboard. In this case, I have it configured for a project manager. So you'll see my open appointments, my open project assignments, and my open projects. One of the nice things about the dashboard is if I actually want to get into one of these projects, I can click on it right from my dashboard, and it'll take me actually right into that actual project. From a primary navigation perspective in Promys, basically I have my modules down the left-hand side, so contact management, Salesforce automation, order fulfillment, project management. And where we talk about the project management process starting is really actually at the quoting level. And the reason that we talk about that is if you can create a detailed bill of materials and a detailed labor estimate for a project, so detailed bill of materials, detailed labor estimate by specialized resource type, even if the salesperson is presenting the quote to the customer based on a roll-up of all the hardware line items and a roll-up of all the services items, basically looks like that, right? So this is the presentation layer to the customer, is the roll-up. In the background, I still want to keep track of, from a job costing perspective, of the individual materials and the individual hours by specialized resource type, so I can get real-time visibility into the over-under of my cost against budget project performance as materials are consumed, as hours are assigned to work orders, and as timesheets are filled in. And we'll talk about that further in a few minutes. But where we talk about the project management process starting is in actually capturing a detailed bill of materials and a detailed labor estimate at the quoting stage to compare to actuals for job costing purposes, even though ultimately what's presented to the customer are two rolled up line items using what we call print groups. Okay, so when the customer actually decides that they want to move forward with a particular quote version, all I do is click on Create Sales Order. And what that's going to do is it's going to take all the information from that quote version and bring it across to my project. So you'll see my detailed bill of materials and my detailed labor estimate from quote version 1, and we do support full quote versioning, automatically comes across to my sales order, 117. Now, there's two different streams. I have my equipment fulfillment stream and I have my service delivery stream. Now, most project managers, most service delivery people are going to have to wait for either the equipment to be brought in and staged or drop shipped to the customer in order to coordinate and start to schedule service delivery. And so we also help the project managers with that in providing them with real-time visibility into the delivery life cycle of the bill of materials without having to go and bug the purchasing admin team. So basically what I can see is, has these items been ordered? Yes, they've been ordered and placed on PO. Now I'm waiting to receive them. Now they've been received, and if we're staging them, now we've staged them and we've picked them, and now we ship them to the customer. So instead of having to constantly bug the order fulfillment team for status updates on the equipment delivery life cycle, whether these items are ordered from Tech Data and these items are ordered from Synex and these items are ordered from Ingram, I can just go in as a project manager and actually see the real-time status myself. Because as each of these items are purchased, are shipped, and are invoiced, I'll get that visibility as each of those transaction steps take place without having to manually phone, email, or stick my head in somebody's office. Now, the other nice part about this functionality is it allows me as a project manager, if I'm responsible for communicating back to the order fulfillment team what's ready to be invoiced, I can use the same view, and both from a materials perspective and an hours consumed perspective, I'm not going to create an invoice. What I'm actually going to do is create an invoicing request. And so I can contact our invoicing person and say these items are ready to be invoiced, and simply confirm either if it's going to be partial quantities, so these items and these items I'm going to do full quantities on, so that's the hardware items, but let's say I only consume part of the hours. I'm going to put in a partial quantity and save that. And what's going to happen is the order admin team is going to get an invoicing notification request from me saying basically these items are ready to be invoiced, but no bi-weekly meetings, no emails, no voicemails. It's actually taking the detailed line items, part numbers, pricing, quantity, descriptions, and my partial hours consumption amount, and communicating that in an automated way to the invoicing team. Now, when it actually gets into structuring your project, again, everything's linked in Promys, so when I go back to my sales order, course, I'm going to have all of the information that came from the quote to my sales order, and now to my sales order into my project, and it's going to ask me to assign a project manager without having to rekey any of that information. So now I've created a new project, and now we get into the nitty-gritty of managing my project. I can have a project schedule, so I can actually have an unlimited number of project task templates. And those templates can be as fancy or as simple as I want. It could just be a task checklist. Task 1, Task 2, Task 3, run the power, set up the rack, install the server. Or it can be relatively fancy, where I can have milestones and subtasks and sub-subtasks. Now, I don't have to do this. This is an optional step. And again, I can have multiple different templates if that helps me more quickly set up a work breakdown task schedule or a task checklist, depending on the type of project that I'm trying to manage. I could just go and start issuing work assignments. So in Promys, as I go to issue a new work assignment, I can issue that work assignment one of two ways. I can issue it as an appointment, which means the technician expects to be on site at a particular time for a particular duration with a particular end time when they'll be done that task. You'll see it gives me an error message because I forgot to fill in the work requested. But just before we go there, I can also assign it as a to-do, which means you're a senior person. You know how to do things in an order that makes sense. So you got 5 things to do today. I don't care in what order you do them in. Just get them done by this due date. And there won't actually be a timestamp associated with this work assignment. So let's just leave it as an appointment. And I'll say have design meeting with customer. So that's the task. Now the minute I click on save, 3 things are going to happen. The first thing is that this resource that I've assigned this work assignment to, they're going to get an email notification with all the details about this task. Who the customer is, who the contact is, phone number, address, what work I'm supposed to do when I get there, timestamp. In addition, it's also going to book it in this resource's personal calendar. Outlook, Google Calendar, we don't care. And the third thing is it's going to update my master resource calendar, which I'm going to show you in a second. Now, this work assignment, in addition to the details about what time I'm supposed to be there, how long I'm supposed to be there, and what I'm supposed to do when I get there, there can also be user-defined billing rates associated with that work, right, depending on the different kinds of work that I do. So this is the company's user-defined rate table. Here's all the different kinds of user-defined services that we provide, and here's the different rates associated with those services. So let's say in this case I'm just going to say it's design, and it's going to be for 5 hours. And it's as simple as that. Now I can also make this a multi-person assignment or a multi-day assignment simply by adding additional people. Down here is recurring, multiple days, or additional resources. And Promys would automatically create multiple assignments for multiple people across multiple days off this single initial work assignment. Now, when I go back to the resource calendar, so usually what I do in the real world is I look in the resource calendar and see availability before I actually started issuing work assignments. But I did it in this order, so you'll see the flexibility in terms of how I can actually assign work and track work. And you'll see that Promys tracks in color coding which work assignments are service calls, projects, and then green are indirect assignments like pre-sales activities, admin, etc. So here's the work assignment that I just created. And if this resource phones in sick and I need to transfer it to another resource who's available, first you'll see I can see availability in a month view, a week view, or a day view. I can just drag and drop this work assignment. So here's the resource I want to give it to them, and they're available on that day. And I'll refresh the calendar. And you'll see when I go back to that work assignment and I do a refresh, you'll see it's automatically moved it to that new resource. It's pulled it out of the prior resource's personal calendar, sent this resource an email, booked it in this resource's personal calendar, and updated my master resource calendar all in real time. So what we talk about in Promys consistently is the linkage between all the different steps and all the different aspects of a change, and that it affects not just that resource's work assignment, but also their personal calendar and the master resource calendar. Now the next step is for this resource to go and do the work. And as they go and complete this work assignment, they can either use the mobile application to fill in their timesheets and expenses against their work orders, or they can go into the desktop timesheet. Promys supports any mobile device, Apple, iPhone, Android, Microsoft Windows Phone, we don't care. We're very device independent. So if I go into that work assignment, have design meeting with the customer, all the resource is going to do now is go in and fill in their actual hours. So you'll see it took 2.5 hours more than I expected. Put in the work details, and design meeting with customer, and tell them I'm done. Now by ticking this tick box, what I'm telling Promys is this work assignment is completed. There are automated escalations available in Promys, both against the work breakdown task structure and the individual work assignments. So the project manager would get notified that a particular task didn't get done and which work resource, which work assignment assigned to which resource was the cause of that task falling behind in the project schedule. And those escalations would continue based on whatever user-defined notification path that you, the customer, had decided. Now the nice thing about the linkage in Promys is if I go back here to my project, oh sorry, that's the project assignment, to my project, there we go. You'll see that I scheduled 5 hours, but Promys already knows that it actually took 7.5 hours, so it's actually drawn down by 2.5 hours more against my project budget than I expected. So now I can see if I'm 40% complete on the project, I have 60% of my hours left, and so I'm in good shape. But if I'm at 30% complete and I'm at 60% of my hours remaining, now I know I have a problem. But the good news is I know I have a problem with a good portion of the project, more than half the project left to fix it. I'm not getting blindsided or only finding out at the time I hit my ceiling budget that I have a problem. I'm finding out very early in the project. The other thing is because Promys actually brings across the detailed labor estimate by specialized resource type, by hours and dollars, I actually get visibility into, well, where did that overage come from? So I don't just know that I'm over compared to my original project budget. I actually know whether it came from design, project management, or training. And that's beneficial for two different reasons. One is, now I know I have a problem with advance warning and can do something about it. The second is I know where, so I can take specific action. And the third issue might be that maybe the problem is we always quote 5 hours for design on these kinds of projects, and it always takes 7.5 hours. And now I can cycle that implementation lesson learned back into the quoting process. And that's the project audit that I can do consistently that basically shows from a project job costing perspective, did I use more or less materials than I thought I would? Did I use more or less hours than I thought I would? And if there's overages or underages, where did those overages or underages come from? So here's an overall project, sales order, build, outstanding, variance. And now I can drill into the product details. Did I use more cabling than I thought? More mounting hardware than I thought? No, that's all okay. And I can drill into the labor, and I can say, okay, so here's my sales order value in terms of my training, design, and project management hours. And I estimated it would take 5, but it keeps taking 7.5. So, and again, this is where maybe we leverage cycling a lesson learned back into the quoting process. And I can do that on every single project. It's not a manual process. It's a push of a button to give me that over-under, both for materials and for labor. I can also run very advanced labor analysis reporting in Promys. And this one I'll run across all labor types by project, service calls, and indirect time. And in Promys, what we're really trying to facilitate is to ask and answer the question for our customers about, well, what was our most profitable project? Or who is our most profitable project manager? Or what's our most profitable field resource? Or who's our most profitable services customer? What's our most profitable labor type? Right, so I'll give you a good example. We're trying to run an audit for year to date to see if we have some customers where their actual hours consistently exceed their billable hours. So, in short, maybe I need to fire some customers. And so what I'm looking for is I'm looking for particular customers who are always in excess of their actual hours versus their billable hours. Now, chances are I may not have a problem across this entire customer. So here's a good customer example, right? Actual hours consistently exceed billable hours across all the projects for that date range that I put in. But you know what? Maybe it's not a consistent problem with this customer. Maybe the problem is, as I see here the different resources that did work, and they did different kinds of work, and they're over-under for each work assignment, maybe the problem is that there are particular resources that they pick on. So when that resource is on site, they're really good at saying, hey, while you're here, can you do some additional work? And that resource maybe isn't very consistent about pushing back and saying, well, no, I'm afraid that needs to be a change order. right? Well, while I'm here, I guess, okay, I'll do it for you. And maybe the company just needs to give that resource some feedback saying, no, that has to be a change order. Or the other thing could be, when this resource does this kind of work, it always takes them longer than the estimate or the average, and so maybe that resource needs some more time for training on that particular task, right? And that's just one example, right? For this particular report, I could spend an hour just in this report, and again, show you who's my most profitable project manager, what's my most profitable field resource, what's my most profitable labor type. Here are all the different slice and dice criteria you could use by department, by labor type, by model, by product type, by project manager resource. So very, very robust labor analytics in Promys. And of course, we also have very robust labor utilization report to show me the project billable, project actual, service call billable, service call actual, indirect time by department and by resource type to determine billable utilization by resource by department. So that's a quick overview in terms of the Promys project management functionality. I hope it gives you a good indication of the type of both project management, resource management, and timesheet and expense management functionality Promys has, as well as some of the very robust reporting that Promys supports, and the visibility that Promys provides, both to the order fulfillment team and the project management team to help coordinate service delivery. If you'd like more information, please feel free to go to our website, www.promys.com, or contact us at info@promys.com.